Which of these stories will you be talking about tomorrow? The overnight raid at Occupy Wall Street, the NYPD riots.
What's your name? Daniel.
200 arrested, at least half a dozen journalists, and a New York City councilman bloodied and incarcerated.
We are the 99%! We are the 99%!
Protesters have had 2 months to occupy the park with tents and sleeping bags. Now they will have to occupy the space with the power of their arguments.
But when Occupy gets a restraining order guaranteeing their rights to bring their tents and sleeping bags back, Mayor Bloomberg ignores it until a judge conveniently reverses it.
Things got bailed out. We got kicked out.
The City of New York versus Occupy. The City of New York versus the Constitution of the United States, with witnesses Josh Harkinson of Mother Jones and Ryan Hoffman of Occupy Wall Street, with Occupy attorney Yetta Kurland, with Michael Moore, and with my special comment, Michael Bloomberg, Occupy, and how democracy is protected by the endless stupidity of those who would destroy it.
Make no mistake, the final decision to act was mine and mine alone.
And the words are few, but they grow in number and ring with clarity. Gabby Giffords is back.
So you think to yourself, I'll go back to Congress if I get better.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
And that's where you are right now.
Yes, yes. There is a lot to say. I will speak better. I want to get back to work. Representing Arizona is my honor.
All that and my special comment on Occupy now on Countdown. Good evening from New York. This is Tuesday, November 15th, 357 days until the 2012 presidential election, and this is a special edition of Countdown. At this hour, Occupy Wall Street protesters are heading back into Zuccotti Park, minus their tents, their sleeping bags, their kitchen gear, computers, media center, and generators, all with First Amendment rights bloodied but unbowed, courtesy New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, many with more physical bruises, courtesy the NYPD. The fifth story on the Countdown, Occupy Wall Street cleared from Zuccotti Park overnight in a massive police action, then fighting in court for their right to keep camping there, winning the first round, losing on appeal, yet going forward. The police crackdown beginning about 1 a.m. Eastern Time, an action the New York Times reports was kept secret from all but a few high-ranking officers. Hundreds of police arriving with this message for the more than 200 protesters asleep in their tents.
Camping, the erection of tents and structures, and the storage of personal belongings are prohibited in Zuccotti Park.
Demonstrators had little time to collect that personal property, some say as few as 10 minutes. The NYPD then moving in to clear them out and passing on this message from City Hall.
You'll be able to come back, but without tents. In these cold winter months, they want us to stay here without our tents, so without our protection.
At least 200 arrests reported, more than 140 inside the park, the others on nearby streets. Among those arrested, at least half a dozen journalists and New York City Council member Idanis Rodriguez, who reportedly suffered a head injury at the hands of the police. The councilman only got out of the hoosegow tonight. He issued a statement that itself promises to extend his part of the story into tomorrow. Early this morning, he writes, I was arrested by the NYPD near Zuccotti Park. I had rushed down to the area when I heard that the occupation was being evicted in order to observe as a representative of my community. I committed no offense. I appreciate all the support people have shown today, and tomorrow at noon on the steps of City Hall, I will be speaking more on today's events. Turned out of Zuccotti, Occupy Wall Street marched to Foley Square, Manhattan's courthouse district, where State Supreme Court Justice Lucy Billings issued a temporary restraining order against the eviction, an order that should have allowed Occupy Wall Street to return to Zuccotti and remake their camp. Mayor Bloomberg, however, had other ideas, claiming he had intended to let the protesters return by 8 a.m., but was forced to change those plans in order to appeal Justice Billings' restraining order, keeping them out while the city appealed the restraining order and offering this remarkable justification for the mass eviction.
Unfortunately, the park was becoming a place where people came not to protest, but rather to break laws and in some cases to harm others. The First Amendment gives every New Yorker the right to speak out, but it does not give anyone the right to sleep in a park or otherwise take it over to the exclusion of others.
New York's mayor also insisting the protesters were removed peacefully.
There was certainly no serious injuries that we are aware of. People that lay down on the ground, may have banged themselves.
I think the last time that excuse was offered by a public official, it might have come from Bull Connor of Birmingham, Alabama. And Mr. Mayor, on behalf of the city of New York, you can go bang yourself too. Bloomberg also explaining why reporters and camera crews were kept far from the activity.
The police department routinely keeps members of the press off to the side when they're in the middle of a police action. It's to prevent a situation from getting worse and to protect the members of the press.
Protesters waiting for the results of the city's appeal were disappointed. Supreme Court Justice Michael Stallman ruling that their attorneys have not demonstrated that the rules adopted by the owners of the property concededly after the demonstrations began are not reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions permitted under the First Amendment. In short, Brookfield Properties, which owns Zuccotti in a public-private partnership with the city, can make up its own rules for how the property can be used, have the city enforce them, and change them whenever they like, regardless of the protesters' constitutional rights. Support for Occupy Wall Street came from all over, from Occupy Boston.
They just show up at 2 in the morning and just start arresting people. That's terrible.
More practical was the support from Occupy D.C., which tweeted a photo of its members today occupying the Washington offices of the owners of Zuccotti Park, Brookfield Properties. Support also from AFL-CIO President Richard Trumka, who said in a statement that read in part, the Occupy Wall Street movement has been committed to peaceful, nonviolent action from its inception, and it will keep spreading no matter what elected officials tell police to do, but that doesn't mean these raids are acceptable. In fact, they are inexcusable. As for Occupy Wall Street itself,
they tried to evict us from the park, but you can't evict an idea. We're going to keep going, and we're not going to take this as an end, but an opportunity for a new beginning to start anew.